I'm Nedra Knorr, president of Futura RGV, and I want to welcome Ellie Torres, Hidalgo County Commission for District 4, to our Futura RGV discussion on what is happening in District 4. And Ellie, I have to say, has a career as an elementary and secondary teacher and has also served as a Region 1 Education Service Center person. And as a retired elementary teacher and college professor, I have to ask you, Ellie, what did you teach?
I taught every grade level in elementary except first grade. And like many have said, if you don't teach first grade, then you didn't teach. But I did teach. Were you a first grade teacher?
No, I didn't teach first grade. I'm like you, but I taught almost every other grade, including, of course, I taught teachers how to teach at Indiana University Kokomo campus.
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, I did not teach first grade, but I did do kinder through fifth grade, middle
You
school.
did kindergarten. That is about as good as first grade.
Yes, yes. And then middle school, sixth, seventh, and eighth. And then in high school and halfway through middle school, I was a counselor, a college readiness counselor for a special program called Gear Up.
Well, as an educator of longstanding, I am very impressed with those credentials. And I thank you for your service as a teacher. But that's not what we're going to interview you on today. I know that there have been a number of improvements in your district, and I understand you'll have new office space in about a year, and you're working on a number of improvements. But at the moment, I want to thank Futura RGV sponsors who help us bring these discussions to you. And that includes Rhodes Enterprises, Clark Chevrolet, Sam Garcia Architect, Frost Bank, Valley Land Fund, IBC Bank, L&F Distributors, Rio Bank, DHR Health, Ernie Williams, Copy Zone, Upper Valley Mail Services, and Crazy Stupid Live Video Creations. So we very much appreciate them bringing these to our Futura RGV Facebook page, YouTube, and other social media for further viewing. So now Futura RGV moderator, Davis Rankin, will discuss with Ellie about all of these District 4 improvements. And now, Davis, I'll turn this over to you and Ellie to tell us the news about the new office space, the drainage, the roads, the parks, and whatever else is happening in District 4. So Davis and Ellie, you're on.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks to the commissioner for being here. And I'm currently looking at a map because Hidalgo County has a map aspect, or when you go to Hidalgo County government, and if Ms. Torres doesn't know what's going on in all of her district, it's certainly to be understood because a whole lot of it is ranch land. Her district goes all the way to the Brooks County line, and she shares the western part of Hidalgo County. That's I guess that's Ever Villarreal's district. He gets some of that ranch land as well. We wanted to talk about drainage because we were all at a recent event, and do I remember right, Commissioner, that you said you're preparing some sort of a series of videos or something instructional about the state of drainage in your precinct?
Yes, sir. I think the last time we spoke, I shared with you that I had the intention of creating some videos, just kind of like a did you know, because I can tell you that there's a lot of missed information and misinformation out there. And just to kind of educate people on the differences of from drainage ditches and elevations and what it means in their area to where our systems lie and how things work. So that is something that people can look forward to. My multimedia coordinator and I are working on putting something out like that.
What your district encompasses, of course, all that ranch land and those ranchers. My guess is the ranchers or the people who live in the north part of your district are fairly savvy about drainage because that's their livelihood. But you also represent a good part of, I think, all of Edinburgh, from what I can tell, North McAllen, and a growing part of the county. What is the state with 100% meaning? Well, how do you judge drainage other than if water pools up in my yard, obviously the drainage isn't good. How do you judge the state of drainage?
Well, right now, our state of drainage is that it's in dire need of some attention. And in 2018, there was a bond that was passed where we are bringing some solutions and some of that attention to those identified areas through that bond for some relief. And the voters did pass that $188 million bond in 2018. I can tell you that at this point, the majority of those projects are currently under either engineering or they're actually already out for construction. All of those projects were, bidded out through their precincts and through the drainage district. And most of them, a good majority of them, I would say 33% are under construction. The rest are coming either near the end of engineering and about to go out for construction. But we're talking about a total of 36 projects throughout the county from precinct 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is good news. Those are all areas that were in dire need. Those are the projects that were considered priority. Now, it doesn't mean that our priority stopped at 36, but you can only take so many millions of dollars out to the voter. So that was digestible, and that's what was taken out in 2018.
When you talk to your constituents about drainage, we were talking at this social event about the difference between a drain ditch, an irrigation water ditch, and I don't know what other kind of ditches there are, but we're crisscrossed with ditches in South Texas. What's on constituents' minds? What do they bring to you?
Well, I'm going to share with you, like we were having that conversation, there's this misconception that every ditch that is seen out there, every canal that is seen out there, people immediately think of it as a way for water to get out when it comes to flooding during rain events and things of that nature. But not every canal, not every ditch that you see out there is for that purpose. There are canals that are irrigation canals, and their purpose is to take water to the farmers for their crops. Those irrigation canals also have adjacent to it by the fields a drainage ditch that is for the overflow of the water from those farm fields. And then you have those drainage ditches that belong to the Hidalgo County Drainage District, whose purpose is to move out water from our areas when there's rain events and things of that nature. Sometimes people just see a canal by their house and they think, and they're flooding, they think, why am I not connected to that canal? And the answer to that is because it doesn't belong to the Hidalgo County Drainage District. And there's a lot of confusion because you'll see some of the irrigation districts called Hidalgo County Irrigation District number 1. And so they see that word Hidalgo County and they automatically assume that it belongs to the county and to the district. But that's a misconception out there. That has nothing to do with the drainage systems that we have in place. But I think that wording in front of the irrigation district really confuses people. And they see these canals out there. They think that all of them are for the purpose of dewatering our areas, and that is not the case.
What the last major, we had the $188 million projects passed in 2018. It was in do you remember when it was? The 70s, or it'd be the 70s or early 80s when the county passed their master drainage plan, which was multi-millions of dollars. It was much fought over. It was defeated the first time, I believe. My father said that it was defeated, that then McAllen Mayor Othel Brand campaigned against it. I don't know why. It was reconsidered and then eventually passed. And that was, well, go ahead.
I know that our master drainage system has been established since the 1970s. Okay. And as I've come to become really acquainted with that master drainage system, I can tell you that one of our major what we call the Hidalgo-Willacy main drain. We've got a branch that goes out to the north side. We've got a branch that goes out to the south side. We have a little branch that goes out to the west side. And then, of course, the main vein that carries all the water out to the Laguna Madre. So that's what we call the main drain. Got the north, the south, the west, and then of course that main drain, that main vein. I like to refer to them as a water highway.
Yeah.
Just like we have our expressways that carry our traffic and move us about and, have us commute and so forth. We also have a water expressway where we like to send our water through to get it evacuated from our neighborhoods, from our communities. And so that drainage system was established in the 70s.
And there's no DPS troopers to pull you over on the water. I keep telling everybody, and I can hear myself going, yeah, you're such an expert, that it's time to pass another master drainage plan because it floods so often around here. My guess is that at least part of your precinct floods a lot. And that's both because I'm assuming it's because there's not adequate drainage, not adequate ditches, et cetera, to carry the water away from people's homes, number one. And number two, we've grown up so much in the last 30, 40 years. So there's more asphalt and cement. Water can't penetrate that to get into the ground. So it just sort of rolls off into somebody's yard. What do you think about the idea of a master drainage plan again?
I think that
Probably
would be
dangerous politically.
Yes, well, that's on point. We already have that plan. And I can tell you that the reason we experience so much flooding in a lot of the areas that you've seen on the news and so forth is if you look around those areas, you will see that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the surrounding areas around that one community that is flooding didn't exist. So as we've had development, as we've had growth, all that growth and development translates to roads, which is asphalt covering that ground that once served as a sponge to absorb that water. We've got rooftops covering up some of that ground. We've got driveways, like you mentioned. All those things attribute to more runoff water. And if we don't expand our existing main drain to accommodate that growth in runoff water, just like we expand our expressways and our roadways, such as Nolana, we went from a 2-lane to a 4-lane, even a 5-lane with a turning lane. We've expanded McCall Road. We've expanded all these roads to accommodate the growth in traffic. If we don't go and expand our main drain to accommodate all that extra runoff water, that's where we get in trouble. And of course, we already know that main drain, we own all the right of way on that main drain, but it takes money to expand that. And the cost is really in hauling away all the excess dirt. So we know that we've got to grow that water expressway.
I was going to ask, it's not a good question, but it's a good question. Why does it cost so doggone much to dig a ditch? We're talking about digging a ditch to take water away, and it takes forever and it costs a bunch of money.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not so much the excavation that costs so much, it's the hauling away of the dirt.
Really?
And then where do you put the dirt? So
I don't know. Where do you put the dirt?
Services, you've got to have a ton load of trucks that are able to haul away all that dirt. And I'll tell you what, I've sat out there and seen that your traditional dump truck takes 3 scoops, 1, 2, 3, and that's it. 3 bucket scoops, and that's 1 truck. So try to do that all day long for all this excavation. It's really costly. The hauling services are what's most expensive, and then finding the location to take that dirt, which a lot of it is surplus. We do advertise it. We try to sell it. If no one bids on it, then it's surplus. People can come by with their own dump trucks, pick that up, and we will load it for them, but then they have to haul it away themselves. So, but that is where it's costly, the hauling of the excess dirt.
The drainage in the valley, as I understand it, north of the railroad line, which doesn't go totally all the way over to Starr County, but essentially north of that, water drains to the north and northeast, right through Elsa and Edcouch, which is why they've flooded so bad in huge rain events before, on into in Willacy County, and then off out into the Laguna Madre. South of that point, it drains sort of, I guess, to the river.
IBWC, to the IBWC.
Okay, so
Yeah, some
into
can go
the,
to the river, but most of it goes into the IVWC. Anything that's pretty much, if you can think of an imaginary line of 495.
okay, all
It's
right,
not precise, but
yeah,
more or less 495. Anything that's south of 495 is going to drain into this north, into the main drain, the north and the south and the western, all they drain into that main drain. Anything that is south of that 495. So you see, if you can envision all the communities that exist south of 495, all of those drain into what we call the main drain. And so when you've got the greatest growth in those areas, you can, draw
yeah.
the conclusion that our system is being overly,
So overtaxed,
yes, with all that excess water. Right.
So if they were cars, they'd be going bumper to bumper, but
Correct.
they're not cars.
Correct.
What, and let me go back again. I'm jumping around, pardon me, I'm jumping around, but this got started, as I remember, because we were talking at this social event, you're producing something instructional for people in your precinct to explain to them what's going on, what all those ditches are for, because they're not all for hauling water away. There are a bunch of irrigation districts that were formed many years ago. I think the state legislature has to form them up. They're political subdivisions, and it's for farmers and people who live out to be able to get water to grow crops, etc. That's
Correct.
totally separate than what we're talking about.
That is correct, but in general, I can tell you myself, until I became fully vested in learning about the drainage and putting myself out there with drainage, I used to pass by these canals, these ditches, and I'll be honest, I thought their purpose was, during flood events, they carry away water. And so if I thought that, I think the general public, many people out there may see a ditch and think, oh, that's for their purpose is to carry the waterway during flooding. And when they see those ditches dry during a flood event, they're upset because they're thinking, well, something's not working. The water's not getting here, because they don't know and they don't understand that that's not our ditch and that's not the purpose of that ditch. So I think it's really important that we help the community become informed of the purposes of the different ditches and how to identify a ditch that is a county-owned drainage ditch for the purpose of hauling our water away out to the Laguna Madre. I think that's very, very important. So that's the teacher side of me that I want to teach the community. I want to teach people the differences in these ditches and also make the public aware of what we experience as precincts and with our bar ditches. Those are the roadside ditches. And sometimes people don't realize that putting their household trash out on the
their mattresses, their couches,
even their trim brush. The county does not have a curbside service for trash nor brush. What the county does offer is a do-it-yourself type of system. People that live out in the county don't pay an extra fee for trash pickup and so forth. So what the county provides are locations where we call recovery centers, where people can bring their trash to us and their brush to us. People sometimes don't realize that perhaps, or just disregard that.
They don't want to drive all the way to your dump site and they'll look, there's no cars. We can go dump it here.
Right. And that actually does affect our flooding, because when they put this brush out in a bar ditch, that is going to plug up our system and keep that water from flowing quickly through those systems alongside the road. And sometimes they even do cause those clogs. And that's basically, it's illegal dumping. That's what it is. It's illegal dumping. And so we're working here at the precinct. I can tell you that I'm working on 2 additional sites for people to come and dispose of their trash. And then we do have one big, huge, I would say it's about 50 acres, 100 acres, where people can come and dispose of their brush. But again, it is a do-it-yourself type of service system.
And you have to be able to haul we had a pickup truck, and that's what we used to remove things. What water that the drainage system, the county-owned drainage system, carries away from people's homes and fields will eventually go where? How does
It all goes out to the Laguna Madre. Everything flows to the east. If you look at the most westernly part of our county, where we border Stark County, their easternly most eastern part of their county is at about 350 feet elevation. That's 350 feet above sea level. And then you come into Hidalgo County and the drop starts. You go from 350 to 70, it starts coming down, and it's not an even slope. It is not an even slope. You've got, all kinds, hills and valleys and highs and lows. But when you come into the center of Edinburgh, you've gone from 350 feet from Stark County to the center of Edinburgh. That is somewhere between 120 and 90 feet. So you're looking about 70 feet above sea level, right in the center of Edinburgh.
That's not very high.
Edinburgh, right.
That's why it
And
floods. That's why
Exactly.
center of Edinburgh is like a little pool.
Yes, exactly. It's probably one of the most lowest lying areas of the city. And so all that water is looking to go out easterly. When you get to Precinct 1, when you come from the edge of Hidalgo County, the westernmost part of Hidalgo County that was at about 350 feet, and you get to the edge of Hidalgo County where you've got Mercedes and Weslaco, Cautelsa, La Villa, we're at 50 feet.
Wow.
So you've got that gush of water that's come this way, then it hits Precinct 1 at about 50 feet. And from Precinct 1, Mercedes, Weslaco, it goes out to the Laguna Madre. You've got 50 feet to go. And it goes out about 1 foot a mile.
Yeah.
Out to the Laguna Madre. So it goes really slow. That's why Precinct 1 bottlenecks with that water. Comes rushing from the west. And of course, this is when we've had rain events where water has come in, for all the way from the east to the west, in one of those hurricane type of things. So not only do they get the rain that's fallen from above, but they also get the rain that comes sliding down through our precinct. That's why we have so many flooding occurrences in the Precinct 1 area. Well, also that's the reason where the majority of the 2018 bond projects were identified as priorities in Precinct 1.
Now, you can have the most efficient, biggest ditches, and then the largest underground pipes to carry water, drain water away. But if it then connects, let's say Edinburgh's got these big, let's pretend it has these big, humongous drainage pipes underground. And then they get east of town and they have, I'm assuming then they have to connect into a county system or connect maybe to the ELSA system, and it's a smaller pipe. So it goes from a bigger pipe to a smaller pipe. Well, we all know what happens. It just chokes up and the water backs up. What's the situation as you know it in your precinct? How does it work?
And you're exactly right. You come down to a choke. Right now, what we're doing is that we're identifying those choke holes here and there where we can find them. There's improvements that are being done to a lot of this drainage system. But that the right hand has to speak to the left hand. Cities and counties have got to communicate exactly so that we avoid those types of chokes. Now, also you have to realize that we just can't send all our water through this big, huge pipe on through our system because by law, we cannot flood our neighboring county.
Well, then what are you supposed to do?
There has to be there's a control system. It's called the Panchita structure over in La Villa. And that controls and manages the amount of water that we're flowing into Willacy County and into Cameron County, well, actually Willacy County, out to the Laguna Madre. And so in the meantime, so what do you do if you end up having to close those gates? There are these gates, there's a gate structure, like I was just telling you, it's called La Panchitas in La Villa, that is monitored for the water flow.
Isn't that a big pond? Didn't they build a big holding pond or something there?
No, there's not a big holder. There's one that's currently being built as part of some of the drainage, some of the monies that we got from the Texas Water Development Board to kind of as a spillover and trying to accommodate some of that water that's coming through there. But by law, we cannot flood our neighboring county. That water is monitored and the speed of that water, the amount of water. And so when we get that call that says, close your gates, we have no choice but to close those gates by law. And when that does happen, that starts to create a backflow. The water would just come it up and literally flow back on top, spill over. And that's when people see a lot of the flooding. To me, a lot of the answers lie in expanding that drain system, that main drain, and also creating retention ponds. I like to refer to this main drain as a water highway. And when you can't accommodate all that water traffic, you've got to find a place to put that water. You've got to park that water, put it in a parking lot. And when you're ready to get that water to flow into that main system, then you can, open up that retention pond to come into that water system. But I know that there's some people that don't like retention ponds. They feel like it's a waste of land. But at the end of the day, it does protect properties. It does protect people's valuables, lives. So retention ponds are a possible solution to the overflow of a lot of this water that comes out of our main ditch.
And we see them in McAllen area, I know, typically around schools, big holes in the ground on school property. And that's just to hold water until it can be carried away properly.
That is the greatest partnership that we can have is with our school districts, is to take those playgrounds. Those are big green area spaces that are not going away. You'll always need that ground for that school, for children to play at and exercise and so forth. So it's a great location to bring it down and create a detention pond to park some of that water until that system is ready to take in that water. We've had a lot of growth in our communities, especially in Precinct 4. As we've received the preliminary numbers from the census, Precinct 4 has had the greatest growth.
Really?
And with growth means more roads, more rooftops, more concrete driveways, more runoff water. Yeah. And in 2018, there was new subdivision rules that require all new developments to have not only paved streets with curb and gutter and street lights, but also to have some sort of connection to an outfall. Many of our old subdivisions were built with just retention little ditches within the community. Yeah. Well, if you don't have anybody that's keeping up those detention facilities and like in the alleyways, and the community, the residents use it as a dumping ground, then they don't serve their purpose. Yeah. And when you have many of those, it only comes to a point where their water starts to run off. And if they have no connectivity, which is what we find a lot of our older subdivisions had on-site retention ponds. Well, back then, 20 years ago, that retention pond that was built within the community worked. But 20 years later, it's no longer enough. So now we're having to go back and create that connectivity that now our developers are being held accountable to create. So I think from 2018 forward, new subdivisions are being developed with the new rules. And so those are great, but we're having to go back and play catch up for all those older subdivisions that were built and developed without that connectivity. And all of this that I'm talking about takes money, lots and lots of money. And so, we're trying our best to bring connectivity to these areas
But nothing is cheap, and there's nothing free.
That is correct.
In spite of what we think. So to bring this to a conclusion, you are preparing what is it, audio visual display or something that that people will be able to see, or how's this going to work?
I'm going to have little short videos with some pictures while I'll be talking over voiceover, showing them the differences between, for example, the irrigation ditch, an irrigation canal. It's really easy to identify irrigation canals. They're the ones that are nicely lined with concrete most of the time. Unfortunately, they don't have signage that says irrigation district number 6, and even then people confuse the word irrigation with drainage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just,
I'm number one offender. I've caught myself doing that over the years.
I was too, but I just really want to inform the community how to identify the differences between a drainage ditch that is whose purpose is to carry away floodwater
Mhm.
to those that are irrigation and not county owned. You know, just like, you know, you might see Hidalgo EMS and you think, oh, that's an ambulance company that belongs to the county. No, it doesn't. It's someone that just used the
Yeah,
name
use the
Hidalgo
name.
County to identify their ambulance service. Well, same thing with irrigation districts. Some of them are called Hidalgo County Irrigation District Number 1. And people assume that it belongs to the county. So it's those kinds of educational little tips that we want to put out there just so that the community is well informed and can really know how to differentiate our ditches or canals. On top of that, other types of information of,
Mhm.
did you know?
All right, well, did you know, probably not, because I'm watching the clock, it's time for us to go. We've exhausted, I hope we haven't exhausted your patience or the viewers' patience, but this has been very instructive, and I look forward to seeing more. It really interests me a lot, and obviously it interests people and it interests their elected representatives because we hear about it a lot. Nedra, thank you very much, Commissioner Ellie Torres. We appreciate it. Nedra?
I am very much interested in those irrigation videos, Ellie. And when you get them ready, would you be able to share them with Futura RGV to put on our Facebook and or our website page?
Most definitely, most definitely. I will do my best to get them out there to you and keep the community informed with we send out newsletters. We let people know when we've got a drainage project in their area. So we'll keep those going. We'll share those with you in case you want to share those any further as well.
Very definitely would like to share those. That's exactly the kind of information that Futura RGV likes to get out to our communities. So I thank you very much for your information on that. And I also want to talk with you more about the Region 1 special program that you work.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Please keep in touch. I need.
I sure will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you again next time.
We'll see you all again.